Did you sleep okay at night?
Yes. But what sleep you could do, because Mum used to have, I think we had the shelters. I didn't start joining them towards the end of 1940. It was either that or 41. And we got all the shelter, all inside, in the middle of the road, there were shelters. Several shelters to take people who hadn't got their shelter. In fact, our garden wasn't big enough to have a shelter. And they used to go out there, or some people would stay in the house, which I thought was, when I look back on it, I think it's, in the story here, they are not going into underground, but if the house came down on top, they could be there. We had some friends of my mother's who lived I'd have to do a blank there because I can't remember where she lived. And there was one, two, I think there was three sisters there. One was the cook, one was the one who took all the food around for everybody, waitress, something like that. They were all three girls were working in this house, and they got into the shelter, all the family and everything, and the bomb must have been more or less on top because their shelter turned upside down.
Oh no.
And they were stuck like that for a week. And then they had Pete there to try and dig them out. It was a frightening time, I suppose, but not to have any nightmares or anything like that. As opposed to us, it was just one of those things.
What kind of things did you eat? Did you eat anything different?
No, because you couldn't get food.
No, I mean anything different than what you used to eat before.
No, Mum, Granddad used to send us either a turkey or a chicken, and they used to have a chap who used to come and drove a car all the way from here up to London and gave us a parcel and sailed us back home again.
Was that from the government?
No, that was from my grandfather at the farm.
Fantastic. Where was your grandfather's farm?
Utamore.
Oh, close by.
And he sent us a goose one year. Oof, yeah. Have you ever eaten a goose?
No.
Don't. They are so fatty.
Oh.
Yeah. And we had, my mother cooked it all little lovely, and we took a bite out of it, and we went, ugh. It was so greasy. It really was. But still, that's going beside the point. But what was I talking about? Oh, you were asking about rationing. Well, all the food was rationed, and you used to get a quarter of a pound of meat that got a lot for the week. Each person had a quarter of a pound, and that was it. You couldn't get sugar. You could get butter, and Mum used to do a swap. She liked butter. She wasn't keen on tea, so she used to give to the lady up the road. Lady up the road wanted tea, and the butter, so we used to do a swap like that. Oh, you did a lot of that in the road, you know, of things that somebody wanted and that somebody else didn't want. And that surprising, what have you got on? And you had bread, you made your own. Yeah, I didn't see bread in the shops. And Mum was a cook, so it was ideal. It didn't make any difference. But there was an awful lot that we didn't have because the Germans used to blow up the boat before it got into London, into the docks. And so we in actual fact, they were talking about this not so long ago, and they said the diet that we were on in the war was the best diet because that way you didn't get fat. Because there was no sweets, no biscuits, very little sugar, and you had your butter and your march, but they were all, you could only have so much. And so therefore you had to make do. I know Ian takes the mickey a lot about the fact that, about the war, and I said, well, we didn't have the food. And in those days there was no such thing as television. We only had the wireless. And of course, as he rightly said, you only knew what they wanted you to read, to hear. And you believed in that, whether it was true or not. I don't know. You never know. People perhaps that told some of the stories were killed. So you've got nothing to go by. But all in all, apart from the fact that we didn't have the fun that perhaps us had, a few years later you could go off and go dancing, go to the pictures and different things. You couldn't. Your life was that you got up in the morning, had your breakfast, went to school, and you came back. And by about 8 o'clock you went to bed. And by about midnight you were down in shelter because the planes were going over. And they were so low, you'd think the planes were actually, they were so heavy. It was just as if they were up above your roof.
Those are the English planes going?
No, that was the German one.
The Germans.
Yes, coming over. I mean, in the daylight, the English planes used to go over. But the fighting, I expect, was between the Germans and the English up above us, but we wouldn't have known. We were stuck in shelter. And that was blimmin' awful too, because when we had made the shelter, there wasn't time to put a foundation on the bottom. So all the water that would rain outside went into the bottoms of shelter, so you had to paddle your way up to get into the beds, and they must have been damp as hell.
But how high did the water get?
The water, but that my father used to bail it out every evening, out the back door or front door, if you like, and get a lot of it. But it was always damp in there. It wasn't in the summer, because believe it or not, we had beautiful hot summers. When we couldn't do anything about it. They were really lovely summers. And we had snow and that sort of thing in the winter, which you never ever see now.
Mm.
And therefore you got the dampness. Though it was dry in the summer, it was still damp.
Was that under your house, the shelter?
That was in the garden.
In the garden?
Yes, yeah. Now, I think most people used to have them in their garden. And some more, and I can't think where. I know the looked through and checked all the photographs. And I have no idea what happened to them. And there was a picture of my sister and I and my mum and dad by the side of the shelter when it was first made. But what happened to the photograph? I dare say one day if Ian goes through what's in my room, you might find it.